The Dyatlov dossier. Inside the world's deadliest mystery. Welcome to Ghost Vibes. Tonight we do not simply observe a tragedy. We descend into a frozen chamber of horrors, a place where the human mind shattered and reality bent. We are opening the full unredacted file on the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a case so fraught with contradiction, fear, and secrecy that the official conclusion remains a terrifying lie. The year is 1959. The location, the desolate, soul-crushing expanse of Kolat-Shakal, Dead Mountain, deep in the Siberian frontier of the Ural Mountains. This territory is hostile, remote, and sacred to the indigenous Mansi people. Our protagonists are 9 exceptional young Soviet mountaineers, led by the steadfast Igor Dyatlov. Their mission? A grueling 350-kilometer winter trek, a feat of skill and endurance that would have earned them the highest certification. They were masters of their craft, carrying meticulously prepared gear, maps, and 2 weeks' worth of food. They were the very definition of prepared, yet the mountain consumed them. The official Soviet verdict, death due to an unknown compelling natural force, is the ultimate confession of a cover-up. The evidence discovered weeks after their disappearance defies every law of physics, psychology, and logic. Their tent, their only refuge against the night, was not ripped by wind or snow, but violently sliced open from the inside, forcing a desperate, immediate, collective flight. They ran, barefoot and in various states of undress, into a -30-degree blizzard, abandoning everything necessary for survival: their boots, their winter coats, their axes, and their food stores. We must ask ourselves, what sudden, overwhelming threat could force 9 trained mountaineers to choose certain death by exposure over staying in a tent that offered their only chance of survival? Was it a terror that originated from within the group, an external enemy, or a non-human force testing the limits of their reality? We begin by reconstructing their final hours. We trace the journey through the surviving journals, some of which were recovered from the abandoned camp. The initial days were typical: camaraderie, difficult trail breaking, and high spirits. A crucial detail: the 10th member, Yuri Yudin, was forced to turn back on January 28th due to severe illness. Yudin later confirmed the group's state of mind was excellent and their equipment was perfect. He was the last person to see them alive, a living witness to the calm before the storm. The final journal entry, penned on February 1st, describes the brutal headwind forcing them to set up camp earlier than planned on the exposed slopes of Kolat-Shakal. This exposed position, chosen late in the day, was a critical tactical error. The final photograph, a dark, grainy image, is presumed to be their last, showing 2 figures near the entrance of the tent, seemingly securing the flaps. But what happened between that moment and the frantic slicing of the canvas? The alarm sounded when the group missed their scheduled telegram. The military and volunteer search teams were dispatched. The discovery on February 26th was terrifying. The tent was found half-collapsed, buried in snow, sliced open from the interior. Investigator Lev Ivanov noted the immediate, visceral evidence of terror: 9 sets of footprints, some bare, some socked, some wearing only 1 boot, all leading downhill towards the nearby forest, 1.5 kilometers away. There were no signs of scuffle, no large animal tracks, and no evidence of human intruders. The exodus was unified, panicked, and immediate. The first 5 bodies were found scattered between the tent and the forest line, their posture suggesting a desperate final crawl. Yuri Krivonyshenko and Yuri Doroshenko were found near the cedar tree, clad only in minimal clothing. They had tried to light a fire, evidenced by broken pine branches up to 5 meters high. This is significant. To break live branches in freezing temperatures requires tremendous exertion and suggests the victims were attempting to gather fuel, indicating a brief period of lucidity and survival instinct before succumbing to hypothermia. The clothing paradox is one of the case's most perplexing features. Investigators noted a bizarre transfer of clothing. A piece of Lyudmila Dubinina's fur coat was found on Semyon Zolotarev, and some of Dyatlov's items were found on other bodies. This suggests the survivors engaged in paradoxical undressing, a final stage of hypothermia, but also, crucially, that they shared and traded clothes from the dead to help the living. They were stripped of their senses, yet capable of calculated survival decisions. If they were rational enough to strip a dead body, Why did they not return to the massive stores of winter gear in the tent? The only logical answer is that something was preventing them from returning. The most horrific discoveries were made 2 months later in May. The final 4 bodies were unearthed from a deep ravine, buried under 4 meters of compacted snow and ice. These were the last survivors, and their injuries defied forensic science. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol had a devastating non-repaired skull fracture. Semyon Zolotarev and Lyudmila Dubinina had massive blunt force trauma, crushed ribs and fractured sternums. Injuries pathologist Boris Vozrozdeny confirmed required a force equivalent to a major car accident. Yet there were no external bruises, no broken skin, and no signs of a struggle that could account for such immense pressure. This suggested the force was sudden, external, and non-contact. The macabre mutilations remain the case's most haunting image. Lyudmila Dubinina was found missing her eyes, part of her nose, and most famously her tongue and mouth tissue. The official conclusion was post-mortem scavenging by small animals. However, the body was found in running water, a factor which greatly complicates such decay. Experts have argued that the precise nature of the soft tissue removal suggests a targeted, forceful action, not random animal activity. The most undeniable physical evidence of a cover-up is the residual radiation. High levels of radioactivity were discovered on the clothing of Krivonyshenko and Dubinina. This finding, recorded by the Soviet medical examiner, was a massive anomaly. The local environment contained no natural source of this level of contamination. The victim's skin also exhibited a peculiar deep reddish-orange tan, a color associated with extreme heat or, significantly, radiation poisoning. This single fact immediately dismisses all purely natural explanations. The Soviet investigation, led by investigator Lev Ivanov, was a textbook example of a government cover-up. The case file was thin, testimonies were suppressed, and the area was sealed off for 3 years. Ivanov was reportedly under immense pressure to rule out military or criminal involvement. The vague, terrifying conclusion, an unknown compelling force, served only one purpose: to close the file and maintain state secrecy. Let's dissect the primary theories in greater detail. The infrasound and slab avalanche theory. A popular recent theory suggests that a rare weather phenomenon triggered a small, highly localized snow slab to collapse onto the tent, but not with lethal force. The heavy snow mass hitting the tent membrane would have generated a massive burst of infrasound, plunging the hikers into an immediate, profound state of panic, nausea, and disorientation. This explains the frantic slicing of the tent and the disorganized flight, as they acted purely on terror and instinct. The military weapon test theory. This remains the most powerful conspiracy theory. The massive internal injuries and the radiation support the idea that the hikers were caught in the radius of a secret Soviet test, perhaps an experimental high-pressure weapon, a clean bomb, or a chemical agent that causes massive internal hemorrhaging. Semyon Zolotarev's presence is key here. As the oldest, he was a late addition, and there is speculation he was a KGB operative carrying some kind of sensitive material, possibly radioactive, leading to a planned elimination. The paradox of the light orbs. Multiple independent witnesses, including another group of hikers far south of Dyatlov Pass, reported seeing strange, bright, orange spheres, UFOs, moving silently in the night sky on February 1st and 17th. These sightings were recorded, then purged from the official files. If these were not military flares, their connection to the radiation and the bizarre nature of the force becomes paramount. Was the trauma a result of a direct energy blast and the missing tongue a sample collection? The indigenous attack theory. While discounted early on due to lack of tracks, the initial confusion surrounding the victims' injuries led some to suspect the Mansi tribe. However, the Mansi were cooperative, and the nature of the internal injuries, non-contact, strongly rules out any human physical assault. The final conclusion. The Dyatlov Pass Incident can only be reconciled by accepting a chain of events, not a single one. The initial flight was caused by a terrifying immediate event, likely infrasound or a pressure wave. The subsequent lethal internal injuries, the radiation, and the forensic manipulation of the bodies point undeniably to a Soviet cleanup operation. They found survivors, eliminated them using extreme force to ensure silence, and staged the bodies. The unknown compelling force was the state itself. acting with deadly efficiency to bury its Cold War secrets. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains the world's deadliest mystery, a stark reminder of what happens when fear meets isolation, and the government prefers silence over truth. What is your verdict? Was it a Cold War experiment, a freak natural event, or something far more ancient and terrifying? Drop your most chilling theories in the comments below. If you believe the truth is still buried in the snow, like this video and subscribe to Ghost Vibes. We will continue to chase the secrets the world wants to forget.